Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel and to my fairy tales, of course. This fairy tale is called The Orgre of Rashumon, and it's a Japanese fairy tale. Long ago, in Kyoto, the people of the city were terrified by, it was said, a dreadful ogre who haunted the gate of Rashomon at twilight and seized whoever passed by. It was whispered that the ogre was a horrible cannibal who not only killed the unhappy victims but ate them also. Now everybody in town and in the neighbourhood was in great fear, and no one dared venture out after sunset near the gates of Rashomon for fear of the terrible stories. 5 valiant knights came travelling through the province, and one night, as the 5 sat down to feast, toasting to each other's healths and exploits, the first knight, Hojo, said to the others, "Have you heard the rumours about the ogre at the gate of Rashomon?" The second knight, Watanabe, answered him, saying, "Do not talk such nonsense. There is no longer such a thing as ogres." "Then go there yourself and find out whether it is true or not," said Hojo. Watanabe, the second knight, could not bear the thought that his companions should believe he was afraid, so he at once got ready to go. He buckled on his long sword, put on a coat of armour, and tied on his large helmet. When he was ready to start, he said to the others, "Give me something so that I can prove I have been there." Then one of the men got a roll of writing paper and his box of Indian ink and brushes, and the 4 comrades wrote their names on a piece of paper. "I will take this," said Watanabe, "and put it on the gates of Rashomon. So tomorrow morning you will all go and look at it. I may be able to catch an ogre or 2 by then," he murmured, but also snickered, and got on his horse and took off gallantly. It was a moonless and stormy night, but Watanabe sped on, and at last he reached the gates of Rashomon. It was but a bleak, bleak night. Peer as he might through the darkness, he could see no sign of an ogre. "It is just as I thought," said Watanabe to himself. "There are certainly no ogres here. It is only an old woman's story. I will stick this paper to the gate, so that the others can see I have been here when they come tomorrow. Then I will make my way home and laugh at them all." He fastened the piece of paper, signed by all 4 companions, on the gate, and then turned his horse's head towards home. As he did so, his helmet was seized from the back. "Who are you?" cried Watanabe fiercely. He then put out his hand and groped around to find out who or what it was that held him by the helmet. And as he did, he touched something that felt like an arm. It was covered with hair and was a big, round, like a trunk of a tree. Watanabe knew at once this was indeed the arm of an ogre. He immediately drew his sword and cut at it fiercely. There was a loud yell of pain, and then the ogre dashed in front of the warrior. Watanabe's eyes grew large with wonder, for he saw that the ogre was taller than even the great gates he had pinned his paper on. His eyes were flashing like mirrors in the sunlight, and his huge mouth was wide open, and as the monster breathed, flames of fire shot out of its mouth. Watanabe never flinched. He attacked the ogre with all his strength, And though they fought face to face for a long time, at last the ogre, finding that he could neither frighten nor bear Watanabe, and that he might himself be beaten, took to flight. But Watanabe, determined not to let the monster escape, put spurs to his horse and gave chase. But though the knight rode very fast, the ogre ran faster, and to his disappointment he found himself unable to overtake the monster, who gradually he lost sight of. Watanabe returned, so he could look at the gate where the fierce fight had taken place. He got down from his horse, and as he did, he stumbled upon something lying on the ground. Stooping to pick it up, he found that it was one of the ogre's huge arms, which he must have slashed off in the fight. His joy was great in having secured such a prize, for this was the best of all. This was proof of his adventure with the ogre. So, of course, Watanabe picked up the ogre's arm to take it with him, and he carried off his trophy with a smile on his face, a trophy of his victory. When he got back, he showed the arm to his comrades, who one and all called him the hero of their band and gave him a great feast. His wonderful deed was soon noised abroad in Kyoto, and people from far, far and near came to see the ogre's arm. Watanabe now began to grow uneasy as to how he should keep the arm in safety, for he knew that the ogre to whom it belonged was still alive, and he felt sure that one day or another, sooner or later, the ogre would definitely get there and would probably want back his arm. He would come, try and get his arm back. What was he going to do? Watanabe, therefore, had a box made of the strongest wood and banded it with iron. In this he placed the arm, and then he sealed down the heavy lid, refusing to open it for anyone. He kept the box in his own room and took charge of it himself, never allowing it out of sight. Now, one night he heard someone knocking at the porch, asking for assistance. When the servant went to the door to see who it was, because nights they don't open their own doors, there was only a child woman, very respectable in appearance, though, very respectable indeed. On being she asked, she said who she was and what was her business, and she smiled, as she had been nurse to the master of the house when he was a little baby. If the lord of the house were at home, she begged to be allowed to see him, for she'd not seen him in such a long time. That's what she was there for. The servant left this woman at the door and went to tell the master, "Your old nurse is here. She looks like a child, but she's an elderly woman. She wants to come in to see you." Watanabe thought it strange that she should come at this time of night, but at the thought of his old nurse, who had been like a foster mother to him, and whom he had not seen for a long time, a very tender feeling sprang up for her in his heart. He ordered the servant, show her in, show her in." The elderly woman, who did look like a child, was ushered into the room, and after the customary hows and bows and greetings and such were over, she said, "Master, the report of your brave fight with the ogre at the gate of Rashumon is so widely known that even your poor old nurse heard of it. I am very proud to think that my master was so brave as to dare to cut off an ogre's arm. Before I die, it is my great wish of my life that I see this arm that you so bravely cut off." "No, no, no," said Watanabe. "I am sorry, but I cannot grant your request. Ogres are very revengeful creatures. If I open that box, there is no telling that he may suddenly appear and carry off his arm." The woman pleaded and pleaded, but Watanabe still refused. Then the old woman said, "Do you suspect me of being a spy sent by the ogre?" "No, no, of course I don't. Of course not. I do not suspect you of being the ogre's spy. You are my own nurse," Watanabe answered her. "Then you cannot refuse to show me. Show me the arm, please." And she begged and pleaded, "For it is the great wish of my heart to set for once in my life my eyes on the arm of an ogre." Watanabe could not hold out over this, for his heart did feel for her, and at last he gave in, and he led the way to his own room, the old woman following. When they were both in the room, Watanabe shut the door carefully, then going towards the big box which stood in the corner of the room, he took off the heavy lid, and it was a very heavy lid indeed, and called the old woman to come nearer. "What is it like? Let me have a good look. Let me have a good look at it," said the old nurse, with a joyful face. She came nearer and nearer, and if she were afraid, she stood right up against it and never showed so. Suddenly, though, she plunged her hand into the box and seized the ogre's arm. As she did this, she cried with such a fearful voice, it made the room shake. "Oh, joy, I have got my arm back again." And from that old woman, she suddenly transformed into the towering figure of that frightful ogre. Watanabe sprang back and was unable to move at that moment, so great was his astonishment. But recognizing the ogre who had attacked him at the gate of Rashumon, he was determined with his usual courage to put an end to him this time. He seized his sword, drew it out of its sheath, and in a flash he tried to cut the ogre down. So quick was Watanabe that the creature had a narrow escape. But the ogre sprang up to the ceiling and, bursting through the roof, disappeared into the mist and the clouds. In this way the ogre escaped with his arm. The knight gnashed his teeth with disappointment, but that was all he could do. He waited in patience for another opportunity to dispatch the ogre, but as later and later it got, it was enough to say that, well, the ogre seemed scared, frightened of Watanabe's great strength, and didn't want to go back for trouble. And he definitely didn't want to go back anywhere near Kyoto ever again. And so, once more, the people of the city were able to go out at night time, and the brave deeds of Watanabe have never been forgotten. The end. And that's the Japanese tale of an ogre. And I like tales of ogres. I think they're worldwide anyway. But that one's Japanese. It's a good tale because, yes, okay, he didn't kill it, but the people were free to roam outside after dark, finally. Couldn't eat any more people and he was too scared to go back. So, thank you for listening. Please hit that like. It's completely free. Share if you can, and if you've not subscribed, please consider doing so because it really helps. Many blessings.